To make the mask, you will have cut out your mask pattern. You can choose either the medium or the large. It depends on how big you think your face is. I have kind of a average size face, so I'm going to use the medium. Now my particular fabric has these little pineapples on it. They all go one direction. I think most of the fabric I gave you doesn't really have a direction. However, if any of your fabric does, or you go out and buy more fabric or something like that for this, you'll want to make sure that your pineapples are going the same way that your print is going up and down. Okay, you don't want your fabric, you don't want to place this side to side, otherwise your pineapples will be side to side. Okay, so I'm going to put this down just like that. I will pin this to my fabric and cut it out and come right back. Okay, so that's all cut out. I need to transfer my little marks where my elastic is going to go. This is part of marking your pattern, so I'm going to flip this over because you want to mark it on the wrong side of the fabric. I'm going to put my pattern over that, and then with some kind of marking device, you can use a pencil or a pen, or if you have you know, the erasable ones, so forth. I'm going to kind of move that over, and I'm just going to mark just little marks there. They don't have to be real big. And again, I'm just using a little marker, just a regular Crayola marker. Okay, just to make my marks small. Okay. So there's my elastic marks. So the first thing I'm going to do on the sewing end of this is these little guys are called darts. Okay, these little triangle cutout pieces. So I'm going to fold this in half just like that. And I'm going to pin that to that. Okay, so I'm lined up at the very end of my fabric. I've got it to the outside edge of my presser foot. I'm going to go ahead and remove my pin because it's not going to take that long before I get there. I'm going to make a few stitches. Again, you should be on an average size stitch length. Whoops, I went a little further than I meant to. An average size stitch length. Okay, it's halfway between your largest stitch and your smallest stitch. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and sew down that one little area and back stitch right there. Okay. So there is that end. I'm going to go and do the other one. So there's two of these total. Okay, and this one I just happen to be starting from the other side, at the other end. It's okay. I'm going to back stitch here and go all the way up to the fold and back stitch. Clip my threads. Okay, so what it's going to end up looking like, oops, sorry about that, is you have that triangle and this triangle done, and when you open it up, it's going to look like this kind of. Okay, so I'm going to take this to the ironing board, and I'm actually going to press this flat to one side. And same with this one here. Okay, so again, I'm going to take what I just sewed. I'm going to take my iron and press it flat to one side. Okay. You can also attempt to open that up if you wanted to press it that way. It's just like a little bit, you know, prettier press. I don't tend to do that. I'm just going to press it to one side. Try not to crease the rest of your mask. Okay. If you're here in class and want to do this using the sleeve board, it actually works a little better to get that on the sleeve board. Give you a little bit more precise. Okay, so you should have some elastic. Either black or white, I'm not really sure which kind you got, but you're going to need to cut 2 lengths of elastic 7.5 inches long. Okay, so I'm going to measure 7.5 right there. I'm going to measure another length, 7.5 inches long, and you need 2 of those. Okay, so now that you have this mask, got your darts sewn and pressed. Okay, so after you have your darts pressed to one side, we're going to, and you have your elastic cut out, we're going to actually pin the elastic on. We're going to pin it to the right side. Now your marks are on the wrong side, so you're going to have to kind of flip it over. And mine kind of bled through. Okay, pin that there on top of one mark. You want to make sure you don't twist this. Pin the other one on top of the other mark. Okay, so you want to make sure that the elastic is sitting on top of the right side of the fabric, looped around. This is going to get, this will be on the inside of your mask. So you want to do the same thing with the other side. So get my mark, put that on there. Okay, make sure you're not twisted when you put your elastic on the other mark. Okay. So what you can do if you want to just sew this elastic down temporarily until you get the other part done. Okay, so I did use a regular stitch, and when I did this, just to make it a little easier so it doesn't get stuck on the elastic, I actually started my stitch before I got to the elastic, went over the elastic one time, and stopped it there. I didn't backstitch or anything like that. It's not necessary for this. Okay, so I've got those temporarily sewn on. I didn't use a basting stitch, I used a regular size stitch. Okay, at this point, I've got those on. I'm going to fold my fabric mask in half, right sides together. I'm going to match that dart seam to the other dart seam and put a pin in it. Okay, from that point I'm just going to go ahead and pin the rest around. Make sure that your elastic is staying inside. Okay. Try to get my threads out of the way. Okay, I'm going to pin it all the way around. So basically it's three sides you're pinning. I'm probably going a little overboard on my pinning here. There we go. Okay, so I've got it pinned. Now you are going to sew all the way around this, except you are going to leave a hole for turning it. So I'm going to start at the top here, the top right, come all the way around, do my pivoting and so forth. I'm going to stop right after that elastic. So I'm just going to put a little mark there. Okay, and you do want to back stitch right there. Okay, again, I am going to stitch from this top corner here. I'm going to use the outside edge of my presser foot as my guide. So it's a 1/4 seam allowance. I'm going to go ahead and take out my first pin. Okay, I'm set on a regular stitch length. I'm going to stitch a few stitches and then do a back stitch. Okay, and just sew all the way around this. When I get to the corner, I'm about 1/4 of the way away from my edge. Drop my needle down, rotate, take that pin out, and keep going on this curve. Okay, don't forget to take the pins out as you sew, otherwise you could risk damaging your needle, damaging your machine, damaging, whoops, oh, I just too busy talking and I went right over 2 pins. Okay. Get to the corner again. I'm going to drop my needle down and rotate and come up. Go ahead and take my pin out. And I'm going to stop at that mark, and when I stop at that mark, I am going to do a back stitch. Okay. Alright, so as you can see, I stitched from here all the way around to right there, my mark. It's at this point you're going to turn this right side out. So I'm going to stick my finger in there. I find the best way for this is to actually grab a hold of the opposite elastic. for your ear and actually draw that out until you get some of the fabric out. Okay. All right. So you want to kind of pull your elastic out in the corners. That'll help with that corner. This top corner, you want to kind of push it out. Okay, and this one you've got your little opening here. So when I take this to the ironing board, I'm going to want to push that in a little bit. My seam allowance inside. You do not need to hand sew this down. There is no hand sewing on this mask. Okay, so now that I've got it all turned to the right side, I'm going to take it to the ironing board. I'm going to press it. Okay, so when you press this, like I said, you want to turn in your seam allowances right there. Make sure that you've rolled your seam out. You give that a little press with some steam. Okay, you want to make sure that you're really rolling that out so it's not uneven. Okay, rolling that out. When I say rolling it out, basically I'm just kind of making my fingers go back and forth to get that seam allowance even on the sides. Try not to mash down the rest of your mask when you're pressing it. Okay. And this top part, you're also going to go ahead and press. Again, try not to mash down this area here. You're going to have some awkward wrinkles around your face. Okay, so there we have that. Nice and pressed. Okay, a couple more steps, then you're done. So I have this is my right side because my pineapples are right side up. If I turn to the other side, my pineapples are upside down. So you want to make sure your right side is the side you're working on now, if you have a design of some kind. I'm going to fold down this top part just where the elastics are. So if you see that, fold it down right at the elastic. Make sure that is even with your fabric here and put a pin in it. Okay, same with this side here. Fold it down, even with the elastic. I'm going to put a pin in it here. Okay, kind of make that all right. So there you have it. I'm going to, you got it pinned. I'm going to do a top stitch all the way around this. So all the way around here, 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 and then across the top here. Okay, so doing the top stitch, don't forget that is lining up the outside edge of your presser foot to the edge of your fabric. I'm going to come down just a little bit from 1/4 and start there. I'm going to go ahead and take out my pin. I don't need to back stitch. I just need to go ahead and start right there. Okay, so in the process, you're folding down that flap, coming down to this corner, and I'm going to put my needle down and rotate that. I'm going to keep going with the outside edge of the presser foot. All the way around this mask. Okay, here's another corner.
Okay,
I'm gonna pivot and turn. Okay, and I'm gonna go across this one side here. And same thing, even though there's no seam there, doing a top stitch to keep that fold down. Okay. I'm going to do a small back stitch there. Okay, so there you have your top stitch. And there's one last step, a little final press. Okay, so I've got this facing the back side here. the little flap there, I'm going to kind of pull that flap to make it look like a little triangle. I'm going to fold this over like that. Might take some wrestling. That actually went fairly smoothly this time, and I'm going to just give it a short little press. Okay, and that's what the mask looks like. This little part goes over your nose. That helps, especially if you wear glasses. Whoops, get that right in the center. And that's it.